Morning. Dot Dreep, you get to catch one of these live. Congrats. So probably not as exciting. Yes. Yes, Gamma. Hey, you're going to LTC, ain't you? Despite my son's best effort to kill me again. Here I am. Oh, you'll see me there. They might not let me pass the little, if they still do the temperature gun thing to your forehead. No guarantees I'll pass that, but I don't, you know what, Falco, your son's gonna be born around the same time as ours was. If you're going, the problem is daycare combined with winter time. Because the entire winter season, my wife and I have been bedridden to some extent. I don't know how the daycare workers are not constantly like they must be immune to something or have access to some kind of super vaccination the rest of the public doesn't have, because I can't believe the teachers are just not constantly sick. Build up immunities. Speaking of which, PJ just got his second round of flu and COVID vaccination, so he's I guess technically fully vaccinated from COVID. Which, if anybody else here is not, my son just beat you to it, and that's kind of embarrassing. He's 7 months old. Yeah, Kama, you'll definitely see me there. Keon. Morning. Lee gravy bread. This is going to be a fun one. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are asking Twitter for their opinion on your low ink eligibility. Celebrating Grace being promoted as co-director of IPL alongside Hoenn Hero. Trying not to make a Splatoon reference while commentating a Foamstars tourney. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, look at me. Look at me saying words out of my mouth. This is quite the feat. This is a historic accomplishment for me. The octaves I can reach are a little bit limited, but here I am talking with my mouth and my vocal cords even. Because the last time that I was on a microphone, this is kind of what I sounded like. The set comes down to an edit versus edit matchup on Flounder Heights. As Knight, what do you tell us about these teams?
I can tell you that you need a Hall's lozenge and some honey to get through this, man. I got your back here. We'll make it through together.
It's the set. So there you go. That was 9 days ago. Commentating the grand final set, FT Win pulling off the quote-unquote upset over Jackpot to become the I don't know, one of the top, maybe not the top team in the West, but a very important match, and that's how it was commentated by me. I woke up the next day literally unable to say words. Like, I could, like, take the air coming up through my throat and, like, manipulate that into, like, word sounds, but my vocal cords were literally locked up, like 100% just locked up. And it took until, like, Saturday, like 6 days later, until I could get to a point to where I'm kind of talking like I am right now. This is just what happens when you have a baby in daycare in the wintertime. As hilarious as I've been sounding, my wife has been going through a lot. Like, her voice has been fine, but she has been very sick as well with all the just kind of germs and nonsense that's kind of going around there. So it's we're kind of hoping that the warmed weather is going to make things easier going forward, or we're just going to catch every disease known to man and just find a way to fight through it. But we're here today, baby. So we'll celebrate today, and if tomorrow comes, we'll deal with it then. But everybody here is doing fine. PJ, for some reason, has been the healthiest person of all of us. Even though he's constantly getting everybody sick, he's just constantly got this little, like, he couldn't care less, you know, which I guess is a good thing. Some stuff that has been coming out. Momo Khan, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, a Atlanta LAN that has been taking place for a couple of decades now, is now going to be offering Splatoon for the first time ever. That is going to be taking place, unfortunately, in the same month as Low Tide City, with a 2 months notice for people that want to attend that event. So that's a recipe for a not high turnout, but maybe there's a lot of people in the Georgia southern area who would be more open to traveling to a venue like that, as opposed to well, I couldn't go to Low Tide City because of graduation or whatever. So hopefully a lot of people can still attend this MomoCon event, but 2 months heads up being so close to Low Tide City, which has been announced for a long time now, that's rough. There's one thing I want to point out. The advertisement for the for like all the esports that they're offering there, including the Splatoon event, was promoting the cash prize, the prize pool for this event. $1,000 prize goes out to, I guess, a combination of winners. Like, I'm assuming like the podium, not just like all or nothing goes to the top team. $1,000 prize pool be given out. I do want to point something out in case there's anybody out there that's like, oh, well, I'm more interested in MomoCon than Low Tide City because MomoCon has a prize pool. It is the worst kept secret, and for some reason it's been a secret that's been like slightly been trying to been kept, but there is a prize for all of these major LAN events. It's usually a reflective of the number of signups, like a portion of the registration. And somebody who knows this more than I do can correct me if I'm wrong, but a portion of the registration fees does go into some sort of a prize pot that does get distributed out to some of these events. I was on the roster of the team that got 5th place 2 Riptides ago. I didn't play a single game, but I know for the fact the 5th place team got paid out some kind of money at Riptide 2 years ago. I didn't take it in because I was like, look, I didn't play, so I'm not. But it wasn't like a crazy amount, but it was still like better than nothing. So if the 5th place team is getting paid out, you know that number's exponentially increasing for the higher payouts. So the point I'm getting at here is the 1,000 prize pool that they're advertising here for MomoCon is kind of low on the low end as far as like what are the other prize pools that aren't publicized about Low Tide City and Genesis and Riptide are being put out there. And for some reason, I'm sure there is a good reason, but they've always kind of hinted to us in like pre-production meetings before we go on to commentate is like, don't say anything about the prize pool. Just talk about the, like what it would be like for these teams to win this tournament, not so much what the money is. And the main reason is like, even if you go to MomoCon and you win 1st place, you're still operating in the red. Like that portion of the 1,000 that you're going to get isn't going to cover your room and board and your plane, your Uber, or if you're renting a car, or like your food, like that. You're not going to these events to get the money, which is why you don't typically see the money being put on the advertisement for some of these events. I'm not bashing MomoCon at all. I'm just trying to explain to some of you guys who might not, oh wow, $1,000. This is a cool event. Well, yeah, but you're still not like actually making any money out of this thing, which is why it's kind of weird that they put it on there to begin with. Hopefully MomoCon works out, but I'm going to be at Low Tide City. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast because there's a lot of stuff going on in March. First off, Little Squid League is going to be taking place this weekend, March the 9th. If you're eligible for Little Squid League, go ahead and sign up for that. That is going to be taking place in 6 days from now. The weekend after that is the Proving Ground Monthly. That's going to be on March the 16th. Proving Grounds is just a monthly now, and it is EU friendly. 1 p.m. Eastern Time is the start for that on the Saturday, no longer on Friday nights. The weekend after that, the 23rd and the 24th, Dapple Productions has done the Fusion Dance with IPL to create a charity tournament. There's going to be more information that I'll talk about that here on this podcast, hopefully in the future, as long as my health is still somewhat viable. And then the weekend after that, the very last weekend, March 30th to 31st, is the Low Ink weekend. That was just the only time that we had left that we had to go with there. It's not ideal to do Low Ink that late into a year, into a month that has 5 weekends. But it is what it is. So we're gonna end March. We're gonna end Low Ink on March the 31st, and then the very next day we're gonna announce the April Low Ink. So it's gonna be a it's a packed month. A lot of stuff going on, and that's just a few of the tournaments that I'm highlighting here. Keelan says, as a MomoCon attendee in previous years, the bigger appeal is the anime gaming convention first. Yeah, exactly. That's like I said, the little brief research I did into that suggested that event has been going on for a couple of decades, if not longer. It's cool that they're adding esports to it, but you wouldn't see it as don't look at it as a major just yet, in the same realm as like a Low Tide or Riptide or Genesis or something like that. But hopefully it's still well attended. All we can do is hope at this point. Today, I'm going to be explaining to you idiots how the Sendou Q season that is coming up is making the future of the competitive Splatoon scene the present. This is a topic I've been sitting on for a while now, waiting for the right opportunity to where there's not much tournaments going on, or there's something else that I doesn't really pressing need to talk about. So I'm very excited to tell you guys how the future of the competitive scene is being changed right in front of your faces. All that and more. But first, it's no secret that in the past 218 episodes of this podcast, I've been quite harsh on our overlords at Nintendo for very many variety of reasons. One of which is just how their tournaments, while providing great opportunities for those that succeed in those tournaments, the actual formats of them themselves are doo-doo at best. But as I've come to realize and come to look at this thing and think, well, we're not getting any developer support. Nintendo's not helping the competitive Splatoon scene. In many ways, that is still true. But as I was paying attention to things last week, I started to realize, the grass might not always be greener on the other side here. On Tuesday of last week, PlayStation hosted a tourney for their game, Foamstars. You might have heard of it. It's drawn a lot of Splatoon comparisons and think, oh, this is just Sony's response to the paint the ground, swim through it shooter that seems to be all the rage with everyone. It is a quote-unquote kids game, and I'm 33 years old, and I'm really good at it, so sucks to suck, don't it? I still enjoy it. This was the final edition of this tournament, though. I believe there was another stage that took place a couple of weeks prior to that. And what we saw on Tuesday was the double elimination top 8 format that was played out with live commentary on the PlayStation Twitch channel, a $5,000 prize pool included in it, and, of course, commentary by none other than Kenny Barlow and our Splatoon community's own Falco. By the way, I have no idea who reached out to Falco. If it was, I don't think it was Sony, but I would assume somebody on the Foamstars side at least did. Whoever thought of it, the idea to reach out to Falco, that absolute great idea on their part. Getting a Splatoon guy to come in and talk about your Foamstars tournament. Why? Because if you saw chat at any point when you bumped into the stream, pretty much everybody that was in chat was there to support Falco and nothing really else. It was just that, and then a bunch of other people that are like, what the heck is this? What is going on? What is going on with this thing here? Oh boy. And I would argue that the vast majority of the viewership would not be there if it wasn't for Falco, because the only people that'd be interested in this would be people coming over from Splatoon. The viewership for this event was comparable to what you would see in a day 2 of Low Inc., which is fine for a competitive Splatoon community. That is something everybody should be striving for, to reach those kinds of numbers. The only problem with their viewership being that level for this Foamstars tournament is when you realize this is on the PlayStation Twitch channel, which is literally 95 times bigger than the IPL Twitch channel. I'm not a Foamstar scientist or esport person that knows a lot about esports or anything like that. But shouldn't that number be significantly higher if that is something that is has actual interest in people? So maybe Foamstars isn't the Splatoon killer. Maybe some people thought it was. And me personally, if Falco wasn't there, I would have not known about it / would not have even cared that it was going on. And I would assume the vast majority of the people watching that felt out kind of to say. By the way, shout out to, this has to be the first, Falco has to be the only person on planet Earth who has commentated an esport on both the official Nintendo Twitch channel and the official PlayStation channel. Like, there's, like, who else could say they've worked, they've been a spokesperson for Coca-Cola and Pepsi? Like, there's nobody that could really say that. Like, this is new grounds that Falco is transitioning over into, and bringing all of us with it. And yes, the tournament was won by Komodo. And yes, I forgot that Komodo was full of Splatoon players. The only one I recognized was Reborn, and that was the only person I saw who was actually tweeting out about it live. So that's where I made the connection and forgot that the rest of the players for Komodo are actual competitive Splatoon players as well. Cut me some slack here, okay? Look, the only thing that Komodo's done to make themselves relevant this decade is beating Red Sun in a group stage of a 20XX and memeing on them afterwards. It was hilarious and well-deserved, but other than that, Komodo hasn't really done anything. So cut me some slack, all right? I don't have to remember everything across the community, dating all the way back to the dawn of time, but I remember. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, what a surprise. Splatoon players coming over and winning the Foamstar tournament. The first ever one on the PlayStation 1. Maybe not too crazy there. Maybe we should have saw that coming. Congratulations to them, though. But as I'm watching this, of course, I'm watching this from the lens of Nintendo, and I'm sitting here thinking, hey, we don't have $5,000 prize pool tournaments. We don't get the same kind of developer support that Sony's giving to their Foamstars game, even though nobody seems to care outside of the own Splatoon community, as far as viewership is concerned, initially. Does that mean Nintendo is not supporting their own game? Well, the more I started to think about it, the more I need to start acknowledging the good things that Nintendo does do for those events. Yes, is Nintendo offering cash prize money for their Nintendo tournaments? No, they're not. And they're never going to. Aside from like the gift card points, I guess you could win for getting certain places. Can't forget about the backpacks, the copies of arms that seem to have gone away. All that good stuff. But when you think about the prizes that are actually being won here, the fact that you can win a online tournament and win a trip to a PAX event, and then if you win that PAX event, you get to go on and play in the World Championships in Japan, all expenses paid for, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong. Those things are still pretty cool. And those are memories that players are going to be keeping with them forever. The Duck Mafia team that played in that, the last pack event, did they have any shot at actually winning that? No. Is that still a memory that they're going to remember forever, being able to play up on that stage in the PAX event, being commentated by Jordan Kent and Nine and Mel and all those, the fantastic people they got for that? That's still a great memory. Of course, Jackpot getting to go off to Japan, we assume, in the coming months as well. There's a lot of cool things that are going along with that. Is it cash money? No. But I think it's fair to acknowledge that even though it's not the $5,000 prize pool, it's still overall value is probably way over that. And the memories that those players get to take away are something that shouldn't be sneezed at. As far as community guidelines are concerned, I would be willing to bet that Sony does have like community guidelines in place somewhere. A quick Google search didn't provide any information for me. And quite honest with you, it's not like a pressing topic I want to look into. I've just been told that several other esports communities have something similar to what Nintendo's community guidelines are. And that's what Nintendo had isn't really something that's crazy outside of the norm. But I would just assume that's something Sony has as well. However, the real test that Sony's going to be facing if they want to actually grow their Foamstar scene and not just have Splatoon players come over every other month or so and take their money and then go back to the superior game, is Sony going to be able to connect to their competitive Splatoon or their competitive scene where Nintendo just flat out hasn't? Case in point is their tournament formats, which, if you know anything here, the tournament formats that Nintendo uses for their events are by far the dumbest formats anyone could ever come up with. I think we can all acknowledge that, right? Like Turf War ladder tournaments. Those are some of the, like, nobody wants to do that. That there's nothing that says I don't understand what the competitive scene wants at all than running a ladder Turf War tournament, right? Like, everyone can acknowledge that, and nobody would even try to replicate that on an even worse scale, right? Oh boy. You talk about things couldn't be worse. What I'm about to show you may be the dumbest tournament I've ever talked about here on the Popcast. And I've talked about some real clunkers over the course of these years. And, you know, some of them I was the TO of myself. But nothing comes even close to what I'm about to show you. So prepare yourselves mentally and emotionally. And hopefully my voice can get through this, because this is going to blow your little minds here. What you are looking at now is the TELUS Esports Series $350 prize pool Arena 2024 Splatoon 3 number 1. Oh my goodness. Where do you want to start with this piece of crap? First off, they got the Splatoon 2 cover inklings ripped right off from the cover and slapped on top of here, which isn't even the correct game that you're advertising, but so be it. This is for North America and Canadian players only. Sorry, Mexico. You're not even allowed to play in this one, much like you would be in a normal Nintendo tournament. And buckle up as we go through the rules for this one. The format for this tournament is, if there are more than 65 teams, it is a best of one Turf War ladder. Best of one! And there's not even a bracket stage after this. It's just 3 hours of that, and the last team standing gets a prize in the top 3. Are you kidding me? Best of one ladder? It's going to take you longer to exchange friend codes than you're going to be spending actually playing the game. That is insane. And that's just the good scenario. If there's less than 65 teams that are signed up for this, the whole thing just becomes a single elimination tournament right from the jump. And if you thought it was going to be anything other than best of one, oh my goodness. Imagine playing a tournament with a prize pool and you are literally eliminated from the tournament in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. It's 1:04 and you're already done for the whole day. Oh my goodness. Now, it's very clearly inspired by Nintendo because of the ladder format thing, but it gets even more of a ripoff when you look at what it comes down to as far as the where is it's somewhere here. First off, there's not going to be a stream for this one, as streaming the tournament is prohibited. I think you can still stream your point of view, but they say you should have like a very lengthy delay. Nobody's screen sniping you in Turf War, trust me. Oh, here it is. The weapons and gear. You can use anything that is unlocked except for the Splatfest tee. You cannot wear the Splatfest tee in this tournament. There's only one other tournament that's dumb enough to ban the Splatfest tee, and of course it's the Nintendo ones that we see here. Why? I dare any of you that are signing up for this tournament, go to their help desk and just ask them, excuse me, why is the Splatfest tee banned from this tournament? And just see if they even give you a response. If it's anything other than, well, Nintendo banned it, so we felt like it was something cheating or something like that. No, it's not. Ability doubler is literally a mathematical throw unless you have a different slot on each of the things, like a different ability on each of the slots. It's nothing you should be banning. You're going to allow Squeezer, but not the Splatfest tee? Like, you could even make a case for that. This is just solidified is one of the dumbest things I think I've ever seen in my life. Now, here's the real danger with this, though, because if this is officially licensed by Nintendo, and I have there's nothing here that suggests that they are, but I genuinely hope that they are, because one, as we've found out with IPL, you need to be a legal entity, an actual business, if you want to get a license through Nintendo. Well, unless TELUS is just not a real company, I'm assuming they are. I think it's a telephone company. Them being able to get a license shouldn't be the most difficult thing in the world. And, they really should, because they poking the absolute snot out of the Overlord Bear right here. Using this is not something that is very frowned upon in the community guidelines. Having a prize pool, extremely frowned upon. Having large participant numbers, very frowned upon. Literally just ripping the rules out of Nintendo's own playbook, extremely frowned upon. Like, there's so many things here that go against community guidelines. This is the biggest this is the biggest against community guideline tournament in Splatoon I have seen since the guidelines have come out, including the fact that you are supposed to put somewhere in your rules that your tournament is not affiliated with Nintendo in any way. If you look at all the IPL events, it's one of the first rules you will see on our Battlefly page is, hey, no, we're not with Nintendo. They told us to put this line in here, so we're going to put it in here. It's not us. I think we also have to put in the registration field that you guys consent to be putting on our stream. Like, there's a lot of people that are confused about that question. That's part of the community guidelines. Even though we're not licensed, we're still putting all that stuff in here. So this just goes way out of its way to just blow all of those out of proportion. So that's why I'm saying I genuinely hope they're licensed, because if they're not, then what they're doing is just putting a big red flag out there that says, hey, are you guys going to shut this down or not? And to my knowledge, not a single event has been shut down by Nintendo. I know that's not their goal. I know of an event in Japan that has been gutted, significantly gutted. I'm not going to name what exactly, but I think you guys will eventually find out on your own. But even that still didn't get shut down. It just, Nintendo was like, hey, you need to change this, you need to change this, you need to get rid of that, and you're fine to go on business as usual. If Nintendo were to come down and say, what the hell are you guys doing with this thing? Shut this down. Then we got our first event, and then it just becomes, okay, now we know where the line is at. But if they just get away with this, then what's the point? There is no community guidelines at that point. It's just completely out the window. None of it makes any sense. And by the way, if you're wondering how the prizes go out, because I see some people that this is the same day as Proving Grounds. This is a tournament where you can't get any results for this. You're not, for the love of God, do not come into Low Inc Help Desk and say, I beat Jackpot in a best of one turf war game. Am I banned from Low Inc? I'm probably going to ban you from the Low Inc Help Desk is what you're going to get. And if you think you can't win this tournament, you absolutely can. You absolutely can. Is anybody going to beat Jackpot in a best of 9 Ludi set? No. There's not. There's no way you could take 5 games away from them. Can you take 1 turf war game away from them? Hell, take your meds, beat Starburst straight up in a best of 3 turf war set. You're saying you can't just cheese them once? It's not likely. I'm not saying I would predict anyone other than Jackpot winning. But especially if it goes to a ladder and it's just their tiebreaker bullcrap to figure who gets what, it's anybody's game. It's just a complete Wild West. But I see several teams signing up for this that won't sign up for Proving Grounds, which is a tournament that can get you some points, that can get you some results. But instead, you're going to sign up for this for the opportunity to win $12.50. Oh boy. So when you take those two things into mind, the Nintendo tournament by itself is starting to look a little bit less crappy in comparison, right? Oh, you look at how other corporations see Splatoon or how competitors like Foamstars operates, and it makes me start to realize, as much as I've made fun of our overlords, while warranted, it could be a whole lot worse. Thankful for the community that we have. I want, if you want to make money on the side, maybe make a little Foamstar team. You can get a little bit of cash money from playing in those tournaments, beating up on noobs to the genre, I guess. Or you can take a part of what these telephone companies are trying to offer you, I guess. But man, the grass is not always greener on the other side. That is what I realized this past weekend. Yes, it is Canadian dollars, which I believe the Canadian dollar is slightly below, like very slightly below the American dollar right now. Triton is saying like $50 is much less significant, I guess. Man, you might actually owe money back if you finish third place at that rate, actually. Well, we'll see how that turns out. But while that's going on, let's talk about tournaments that actually matter here. It's time for the weekly recap. Paddling pool number 256 took place last Wednesday. It was won by H/L3's Trash. Silence took second place, and Donner Kebab /Hazard rounds out your top three. I have to agree. Unfortunately, as much fun as I had with H3 and L3 in Splatoon 2, it is pretty horrible in this game, and that kind of sucks. Maybe some third kits will come out for those weapons, and it'll be a little bit better. I just like the aesthetic of Cherry H3. It'd be cool to see that come back. Paddling Pool now has 256 tournaments under their belt. I believe the magic computer number is 255, so they survived their Y2K moment, and they're still continuing to operate just fine. SOS number 139 was won by Healthy Diet Food Groups. Congratulations. I think that's the first time they finally won that tournament. Fruit Loop took second place, and Little Boy Squid is the team that finished in third. There's more to say about SOS in the upcoming segment, so we'll wait a little bit more before we talk about that. Hammerhead bracket was won by Jin Kraken. Mako bracket was won by Luna's Boyfriends. That is plural, boyfriends, but you know, we don't judge here. Everybody's consenting adults, I'm sure. And Lantern bracket was won by the Criminals. Minnow Cup number 30, Tower Control Edition, took place on Saturday. It was won by Big Fat Sea Cows. Second place went to VR Cat, and Prospect Mira, I guess, is the team that finished in third place. Minnow Cup announced, or MIT announced, that they're shutting down their draft system, and they're going to be hosting one more Launch Point Draft Cup tournament going forward. But that is it for them. So that was a little brief weekly recap. Sponsored by Jelly is Low Ink Band. For the first time since I've been doing the Popcast, I did not do a Low Ink preview, and I literally physically could not do a Low Ink recap. So that sucks for Jelly is Low Ink Band. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe they don't really care. Usually teams like to come on and trash talk me, but maybe those guys were actually mature and they didn't really care about that. So to make up for it, we're going to make them the official sponsor of today's segment of the weekly recap. Jelly is Low Ink Band. And if they were upset about not being banned from Low Ink last week, well, you're banned now. You won the tournament. I don't know what to tell you. Ugh. Today marks the beginning of Season 3 of Sendou Q. The first 3 seasons out of the way, meaning it's time for us to start judging how this works out. The last time that I talked about Sendou Q is when it first came out back in Season 0, which 0 shouldn't be the start of a season, but yet here we are. I talked about some of the challenges that Sendou Q was going to face, how the community just isn't united enough to make it work, how we weren't going to see a bunch of people leave the platforms and all the things that they've done TO-wise with their tournaments and join the Sendou website. Well, I was wrong about that, wasn't I? Now, I'm not talking about Sendou Q in general. My personal perspective, I haven't even played a single match in any season in Sendou Q. I'm retired from playing this game competitively. I don't need to stack myself against where I stand skill-wise against kids that play the game today. I'm good. I don't need an ego check. I'm just fine playing X rank every now and then and calling it a day. But Sendou Q itself is not what I want to talk about today. Instead, it is this new feature that is changing the competitive Splatoon scene as we know it today. Tourneys are starting to leave their current platforms and are jumping on the Sendou.inc website. Last month, 3 tournaments made their shift from whatever platform they've been using, Challenge or Battlefy, to join the Sendou.inc website. That would be Dapple Productions' Paddling Pool Tournament and Triton Cup, and IPL's own Proving Grounds. And I just got to tell you guys, if you have not, if you've been a TO or you currently are a TO, there's all 3 of the platforms that we've been using, Challenge, Start.gg, Battlefy, they all have their pros and cons and cons and cons and cons. None of them have ever been designed for competitive Splatoon in particular. Start.gg was literally Smash.gg. Challenge was designed by a middle schooler, and Battlefy seems to be the best for what you're trying to do, but it's not very TO friendly on the back end of things. But none of them have been designed for Splatoon specifically. So let's just not even talk about the advantages that Sendou.inc tournaments being run on this platform provides for players. The advantage that it gives the TOs is so significant that you guys have to try it. And I don't know if anybody can just join and bring a new tournament over to Sendou, but if you haven't considered it yet, you're already way behind the times, because this is moving pretty rapidly here. But here's the advantages that go on the TOing side that makes it easier for us, which translates to making the tournament a much better experience for the players. First off, seeding is completely automated. Seeding is so if you want to know how seeding works in a typical tournament, let's like a weekly tournament. Time out. If you want to know how seeding works in a typical tournament, what you have is just like a collaboration of seeders, like 2 or 3 people who will wait for registration to close like an hour beforehand. If you are a weekly tournament in North America, that Roundy is usually the person that you have on your team. And like for Proving Grounds, it's been Roundy, Elemental, myself, like Wolf and Toasty will chime in every now and then. But it's not like a giant council or anything. It's just a handful of people who have a limited time to just look at all the teams that have signed up and just place them 1 through 30 or something like that. I think most of the time, at least with Proving Grounds, we got it right for most of the time. Like every now and then, there's a team that's like, okay, we clearly got to put them number one, and then they just absolutely bomb, or like, oh, they were memeing the entire time, so they weren't going to do that good. Or there's a team like nobody, like they've all changed their names, and like we don't know who any of them are, so we see them low, and then they end up making finals, and it's like, great, we just ruined the whole tournament because seeding was off by one team. For larger events, though, like, I've done entire episodes talking about seeding for Ludi. For like Super Jump or 20XX or like even the larger Riptides, you get a much bigger council of people, and you just have like an Excel sheet, and everybody lists their teams 1 through 70 or 1 through 140 or whatever, and then you just like combine all of those numbers into an average, and that's how you get the seeds for everyone. It's still heavily opinion based, but you still get like the right teams. Like it's still pretty easy. Oh yeah, Jackpot 1, Starburst 2, FT Win 3. If there's a team from Japan, all right, put them above Jackpot. Like it's still pretty simple. Like the seed, like the middle seeds and the bottom seeds can sometimes get a little blurry, but you can't have a perfect 1 through 140. And there's been times where like 20XX has reached out to me and be like, hey, can you help seed like the bottom 40 teams? Because they're all like low ink teams. Can you like help us out here? I'm like, yeah, sure. I got you. So that's how seeding typically works. It usually takes some time. With weekly tournaments, you only need like 30 minutes to do it. With bigger events, you usually want to take like an extra day or so. And obviously at Flutie, we take an entire week, and some people think it needs to be longer than that because they're crazy. You know how you do seeding on the Sendou website? You just hit a button, and within milliseconds, your entire tournament is seeded automatically based on Sendou Q points that the current team has. It's great. It's fantastic. I can fire Roundy now. I never have to speak to that guy again. We can just focus exclusively on just having the tournament seeded in a matter of seconds. Now, it's even though it is like all automated, you can still change things. Like if Jackpot hasn't played a single like Sendou Q set and they sign up for your tournament, oh yeah, of course they're going to start off at the very bottom if you just hit seed by that, but you can still like manually change things as you see fit. But still, just having like this reference to go off of instead of just like, I think these guys played in like SOS last week and beat that one team, but they might not. Like there's no research that needs to be involved. You can just let the bot seed it exclusively, and now you have teams that have an incentive to continue to play Sendou Q because it's like, hey, you don't like your seed? It's your own fault, bro. It's not my opinion that's being interjected into this anymore. It's literally your own points, or like an average of the 4 players that your whiffs points being combined into this one. So that's awesome. You just hit a button and everything's done. And that also means that the hour that is usually take before the tournament starts is no longer needed anymore. You know, you've ever noticed most weeklies close registration an hour before the tournament actually starts because they need that hour to do the seeding, let you guys do the check-in, and once all the check-in is done, remove the teams that didn't check in from the seeding list, and then you have to like manually put the brackets together. It takes that entire hour, and for double M tournaments, it's literally the only hour you're actually working because double M usually just takes care of itself, aside from when teams report the score wrong. So that being said, if you have a bot that seeds everything automatically, and also Sendou's website will remove teams that don't check in automatically as well, you no longer need that hour. So that hour where we're actually working as TOs before the tournament starts, registration stays open. In fact, the last Proving Grounds, which was the first time I got an experience running a tournament on Sendou.inc, Stormy made a pickup 5 minutes before round 1 started, was able to make a pickup, get all 4 players to join his team, checked in, and because we just hit the seeding button and automatically seeds them, we were able to let a team play that signed up 5 minutes before round 1 started with no issue. Like you couldn't do that on any other website. But because of that, we can keep registration open an extra hour and with 0 additional work. That is huge. For TOs, it's great. And Sendou has been very accommodating, at least for those of us that have been trying out this service for the first time. And for the players, the incentive for you to do it is that you get points directly based off of the matches that you play. So if you sign up for Sendou Q and you're so tired of people dodging your matches and not, oh man, nobody wants to play us because we're this. Okay, well, sign up for a tournament. Nobody can dodge you then, and if they do, you just get the points straight off because you technically beat them. That is the advantage for the players that sign up for these events. You're no longer just playing to try to win a badge. You're now getting something of value even if you don't win the tournament. You can improve your seeding for next time and make things a little bit better for you down the road. Now, that hour that you need to use to create the tournament, for that just moves for like most things that are weeklies. For like low ink, it's infinitely more difficult to set up that tournament. Like we need an hour and a half to set up low ink, and we have a lot of people that are in our VC, and we have a lot of bots that help us out automate things the best that we can. I mean, we literally have to physically enter all 100 some odd teams into 4 different Swiss groups by name in like a handful of minutes. So it's not always like low ink is a completely different outlier with this, and I don't even want to begin to think how that could be translated over in the Sendou. But if you want to be looking at the next domino that's going to fall here, the next one would be SOS, right? Because already the double limb tournaments have moved over. What about the tournament that moved over to start.gg to help make the tournament a little bit faster? Well, the problem is moving over to start.gg made it more frustrating for the players because that website sucks for the players. Fantastic for the TOs. It's the best TO website that there is. The players, though, get completely screwed over on start.gg. So SOS announced that this upcoming Wednesday tournament is going to take place on Sendou.inc. They reached out and said, hey, can you accommodate a group format that breaks down into multiple different brackets? And I was like, yep, here it is. You got it. So we're going to see how that works out. But that's going to be a fantastic adjustment. SOS is about to skyrocket if this really takes off. And I think a lot of players that don't typically play in Proving Grounds or Paddling or Triton Cup are going to get their first experience playing in a Sendou tournament this upcoming Wednesday, and they're going to see for themselves the advantage that this tournament has. I know the TOs for SOS are going to love this. You don't have to see this tournament every single week anymore. Boom, hit a button and it's already done. It's going to be the smoothest SOS on their end. Guaranteed, unless it's not. Well, once SOS goes down, and that gets on board with Sendou.inc, what's next? You know, one thing I've always hated is Ludi estimates, right? Oh, I estimate that my div is this. Like, kid, nobody gives a damn. Like, I don't care what your estimated div is. That's the thing you just made up. Like, you literally just made that up. There's no facts to back it up. There's anything significant with that. You just decided on your own that you're this div. I'm like, okay, cool. You're not getting banned from low ink off an estimate, though. But I think people are just going to start realizing, do you want to use a ranking system that is seeding for a tournament that took place half a year ago? Or are you going to start caring more about what your Sendou rank is? Which is something you could look up. You can look up the rank of every team that played in Sendou last season, and it just ranks every team 1 through whatever. The top 12 teams getting a chance to play in the final tournament. It's you guys like comparing yourselves against each other, right? You can do that in this. You guys like team leaderboards. You can do that in this. Everything you've wanted that you wanted Ludi to be is here. You wanted Ludi divs to be something that they're not. Well, this is that thing that you've been looking for. But in order for that final domino to fall, what you need is low level to finally take the stand and take the jump into getting into this tournament. forget about low ink's tops, a Swiss bracket into top 32 into multiple bracket nonsense. There are 2-day check-in system, splash tags. Like there's tons and tons of logistics that would make low ink transitioning off of Battlefy into Sendou.ink a total nightmare that I don't even want to begin to like start thinking about how we should be transitioning things over. I will say this though. It is a conversation we have as low ink heads almost weekly of like, is this something we even want to do? Like, is this something that would even benefit us? And we haven't even started to think about the logistics behind it just because it's so daunting. But it is something we're definitely considering moving down the road. And if low ink were to move over, this entire community changes at that point. At that point, who even cares about Ludi divs? I'm convinced the only people who genuinely care about Ludi divs at this point are people that are low ink eligible. Because they just want to know, am I Div 4 or not? Well, I got banned from low ink. I'm Div 4 now, right? That means I'm Div 4. Mathematically, no. But if you want to tell yourself you are, nobody's stopping you from doing that. But nobody who's been away from low ink genuinely cares what their Ludi div is anymore. Because we got these Sendou rankings that come out, and you can compare yourself with that. But if low ink were to transition over, everything changes. And that brings up the next question that I have. If low ink, Little Squid League, Minnow Cup all were to find themselves onto Sendou's website, yes, those are a ton of people who probably aren't normally using the Sendou website that are suddenly going to get access to it, are going to suddenly gain points by low-level tournaments. But with everything changes like that, what is the skill cap going to be? If Ludi got out the door, and like Ludi Div 5 is no longer the skill cap, what would that even look like? You can't use Sendou points as a skill cap. You can't. Let's just say like an arbitrary, and don't quote me on this, let's just use this for the sake of argument, that a low ink skill cap for Sendou points would be 1,100. Well, what you're going to get is that team that's going to get 1,099 points, and they're just going to stop playing and everything so that they can stay eligible for low ink. And like you think people dodge other tournaments to stay eligible for low ink now. Wait till there's a number attached to it that you can't go over, and watch how everybody just suddenly stops at like 1,090 or 1,095. Oh, I'm not going to play another set for the rest of the month, until I play in low ink. Now, if that was the case, they would play in low ink, and even if they don't win it, they would probably win enough sets in low ink to where their Sendou score would bump them above whatever that number is. But it's a completely different logistical monster that I haven't even considered at this point. But it would be something that would change if all these low-level tournaments were to switch over, and we were to move away from the opinions that are Ludi divs and the facts, which is more so the Sendou Q points that are based off of things right now. Verification is also another major issues that low-level tournaments face, or any tournament that has a skill cap, is verifying your players. It's pretty easy for us to verify players that do anything on Battlefy. Sendou is something we're trying to figure out, and regardless of if we make the switch or not, it's something we have to look into anyways now that all these tournaments are transitioning over to that website. You would think it'd be a little bit easier. In some ways it is, and in other ways it's like a challenge that we're trying to figure out. But if it does happen, and you do see Minnow Cup and Little Squid League and low ink all make the switch, then it becomes a whole new world. No more div estimates. No more relying on seeding from half a years ago to determine who can and can't play in certain tournaments. And yes, oh my gosh, the narrative that the Ludi Seeding Council needs to spend 2 weeks putting together divs can finally die, because there's probably going to be a way, maybe not this upcoming Ludi season, but the one that goes after it, to where everybody that signs up for Ludi also has to like attach a Sendou Q account to it, and there's some sort of way that we can just calculate all of your averages and just do divs based directly off of your Sendou queue points, and then the seeding council can spend like a day or two just like combing over things and be like, yeah, these guys are like down here, but they actually should be up here. They just haven't played a lot of sets. Like that would be a lot easier just to have a frame of reference, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that kind of integration go over. Less opinions going into what future Ludi divs could be, and more automation based directly off of what your results and what your scores are and these kinds of things. That would be cool and be something I would like to see. My point being, this Sendou thing was way better than I thought it was ever going to be back in season 0. And when I talked about it then, I said you had to wait. You can't just judge it off of what it does in the first couple of seasons. You need to see how it actually turns out. Well, after seeing the first 3 seasons already play out, and the finals of season 1 and season 2, and the storylines that this brings for top level, and all of this great competitiveness that you're going to see SOS bring to the lower levels, to the mid levels, to how Proving Grounds has already changed with the first tournament that they run, bringing in a lot stronger teams than what we've ever seen in Proving Grounds before. Like, more stronger teams are starting to play in weeklies now because it's on this website. And that's going to have a trickle effect all the way down. If low level ever finds a way to make the jump, everything completely changes at that point, and that's for the better. But for right now, the adjustments that have already been made is mind-boggling. It is a completely different scene than what we were alive in this point a year ago. Every tournament has more value to it now. There's more incentive to play the game than ever before. It's exciting stuff. Just hope that our overlords never step in and shut this down like they've been doing to other things as of late that are slightly related to them. We did it. We did it. Oh my gosh. A whole hour of talking, and we got all the way through it. We learned a lot about the Canadian American dollar exchange rate. And a bunch of other stuff on top of that as well. Let's raid Devi. Let's call it a day. Thank you for watching the Popcast. If you'd like to be a part of it in any way, feel free to reach out at my socials, Discord at Popgun, or Twitch at Popgun25, YouTube at 25Popgun, blah, 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 blah. Make sure you get vaccinated, stay safe, and have a cough drop or two. Those things are actually pretty useful.